Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another wonderful Connecting Greeks episode. I am Ari. We have Fotis Stamos and the guy you all are really here for, because let's face it, you're not here for me and Foti, Angelo Tsarouchas.
That's not true. They're here for you guys too. Connecting Greeks this week. I'm here with Ari, Carlos, and Fotios Stamos. Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, and yourself?
Good. We had a great show last week with Yorgos Hadjipavlo. A lot of people gave me shit for my pronunciation of certain Greek words. Forgive me, because I'm living in White Toast, Los Angeles, which 5 people speak Greek here. So maybe I said something like when Greek. You notice with Greeks when you say something wrong, you ever try talking? At least I can have a conversation in Greek for the most part.
Well, look,
but we're gonna miss foods, right? And I don't mind screwing up
Angelo,
the words.
I stood up for you. I said I didn't think Angelo really spoke a lick of Greek, or like barely any Greek, and he like killed it. I mean, the one thing that I heard was like you do the American L, like instead of lambda, you do the lambda. You know what I mean? Like
Malaka. Malaka.
Yeah.
Malaka. Say it like a pussy. Malaka. He said Malakas. It doesn't say you're a Malaka. That sounds better, doesn't it?
I kind of like it when you say the American L. It makes
the American L's better.
Yeah.
Because we're in America, goddammit. We're in America. And by the way, we should change the name to Disconnecting Greeks, because Adi gave us a video, right, Foti? And we didn't know what format it fits in, because we have Bill Gates here who takes care of all the technical stuff. And he didn't tell us that. He starts giving us shit. This doesn't fit in Instagram and Twitter. How the hell do we know?
You know, it's funny, like on camera, we're all like good friends. Off camera, I'm like, guys, you can't do this stuff. You can't put a long video in a square space. And I start yelling and screaming.
Yeah, well, next time. Yeah, so next time, Ari, tell us this is where it goes. Because I just click and paste. I've learned how to do that. I'm very, very challenged when it comes to technology.
Listen,
you're pretty good with it.
You're the talent. I am going to work with you. We're going to do this. By the time we're done, I told you this before, you are going to be the social media master. You're going to bury everybody else.
Ari's your tech coach.
That's the goal right there.
The tech coach. So we have a special guest this week. And let me build it up a bit. I've known this guy for over 20 years. When we first met, he's a filmmaker from Montreal, Canada. He's made his own films. He's produced his films. He's an author. He's a writer, a producer. Sometimes he's a shit disturber. And I have to tell you, oh, we got somebody jumped on here. Yeah, somebody jumped on.
Hold on 1 second. I don't know what's going on here. I'm sorry.
I was in the middle of an introduction and I heard, do you have milk?
So
I heard a child.
Right? He's an old friend.
He's an old friend, and then this voice of a child comes on. But he's an old friend, and he's just recently published a best-selling Greek cookbook for the soul called My Big Fat Greek Cookbook. And I'm very happy to welcome to Connecting Greeks this week from Montreal, Canada, Christos Sourligas.
All right, let me start this video so he can come in. There he is.
There he is. There's Christos. Hey, Christos.
Thank you for the lovely introduction. And you know what? I'm going to bastardize all my Greek too. How's that?
Yeah, do that anyway, Chris. So we're from Montreal, and I've known Christos for a long. We cross in the same circles in Montreal. I've always admired your work, and you know it's funny enough, guys. And let me tell you the background with Christos before. Christos is a great filmmaker. He's done different films. He's done films on his iPhone. He's done films. He did this great film capturing life in the Greek area of Montreal called Park X.
Oh my God, you remember
where I was born. You remember? I do my homework, Chris. Yeah. And I love that film. And guys, a day in the life of someone. It's obviously either Chris or somebody he knew. It's called Park X, and I love it. And people have had the opportunity. And I was very honored, Christo, when you reached out to me and said, I want you, if you would be kind enough to write a foreword to my book. And growing up similar, like all of us, like Ari and Foti and all of us, we grew up in North America. Christo and I are both Montreal boys.
Right.
And I was very honored to do it. And let me tell you, the book has been a smash sensation. And I like what you wrote, Greek cooking, Mediterranean cooking for the soul. And it's a great tribute to his mother. And Christo's mother was very ill. And he did this as a tribute. And I think part of this, and I think Chris will tell us, but Christo did this. He wanted to honor his mother, like we all want to honor our mothers. And he did this book with her recipes, and he went to Greece, and I know how much work he put into it. So the recipes are fantastic, Christo, because my wife has been using them. I've had other friends that have been telling me about them. But what really connected, I think, with a lot of people was where the reason you wrote the book. So maybe you can enlighten us, and how did this all come about? Because the book is fantastic, and we're going to plug it later.
Okay, great. Well, listen, thank you for writing it, actually. I mean, I reached out to you last summer when I was in Greece, and I spent like half a year there last year. Originally, I wrote the book because, say, about 4 years ago, the doctors had told us that my mom didn't have much time to live. She had like 12 to 18 months to live. And so I set out with my sister and my dad and my mom to basically, you know, collect all of her recipes and all the recipes that she's ever made for us, not anyone else's recipes, right? Everything that she has fed us four kids, the family, relatives, and whatnot. And we wanted to kind of, what I wanted to do was actually just make almost kind of like a notebook. I was just going to go to like Kinko's and just, you know, black and white, just print like 100 copies and give, you know, put them in like a duotang, you know, and just, you know, spirals with like, see-through clear cover and just give it to
a high school project.
yeah, like a high school project. And I was just going to give it to all my relatives and, you know, my nieces and nephew and, you know, family members for free. And then as I started to go along with the project, I started taking the photos too. My sister helped stylize the photos, and it wound up becoming this, you know, it took a life of its own because I was going there once every week, once every 2 weeks, on a day when my mom was feeling good. And, you know, we didn't know how much time she had because she had a heart problem. And if she didn't get a new aortic valve, she wasn't going to make it. And for this first 6 months or so, we tried to cram in as many recipes as we could. You know, the idea is that, you know, hopefully she won't pass away, but it gave her life. Okay. Because
Right.
every week we'd go and she like, you know, try to remember, you know, she didn't have anything written down. And it was, you know, how Greek mothers cook. It's a dash of this, dash of that, a little bit of that. There's nothing written down. Right. So she actually, we had to force her to use, you know, measuring instruments like cups and spoons and all that kind of stuff. And it literally took like several months before she got used to that process. Anyway, long story short, we did wind up finding a doctor who was going to operate on her. Very few doctors wanted to operate on her because of her advanced age and some other medical issues that she had. And the lady wind up, you know, living a couple extra years. And we completed the book after about, you know, between the surgery and the rehab, she was out for about 3 to 4 months. And then we started in the fall again and we completed it in that winter. I put together the book and I started showing it to some friends and like, wow, this is great. And I'm like, really? So yeah, this is great. Don't, you know, just go to, you know, print shop, rip them out. Says, you know, self-publish it. Try to figure out a way to self-publish it. And a friend of mine who owns probably the only, at least English language, cookbook store in the country with her husband here in Montreal, she said, yeah, go self-publishing route and use a couple of online sites where you can just, you know, get a template, shove all the recipes, shove all the photos, and then, you know, people can just order online, and that's that. And then as I started putting this together with a friend of mine who's a graphic artist, I started to show her some of the materials. My friend owns this cookbook store. She's like, no, this deserves to actually be seen by a wider audience. Like, at first she thought, you know, okay, I'm going to put together this like simple little, you know, recipe book. But then when my friend, her name is Tice, when she saw it, she's like, wow, like, go out and get yourself a lit agent and go out and get a publisher. So she kind of helped me through that process a little bit. And I wound up finding a literary agent in New York, and that lit agent got us a publisher. And that's essentially, you know, it wasn't meant to actually be this successful, to be quite honest with you. But like what Angelo said, I think is because there's a story behind it, you know, and I'm paying tribute to my mom, and it's an homage to my mom. And it's not just, you know, after the book came out, and I started doing some book signings, I started to realize, because everyone had a story, you know, like every book signing we did, selling out, right?
Yeah.
And people came up to us, you know, it's like, oh man, I wish I did this. And every nationality, it wasn't just Greeks, you know, like, you know, Italian, French, Jewish, Asian. And they're like, you know what? You did that one thing that we all thought about doing, or that we all wanted to do. But we never had the time, or never had the courage, didn't have, you know, we weren't proactive enough. And then, you know, my mom died, or my grandfather died, and the recipes have left with them, right? And some people would come and have moments where we'd cry, you know what I mean? And especially in some of the radio, television interviews I did as well. And as I was going through this process of promoting the book last Christmas, I realized I didn't just make it for my mom. I made it for all the mothers out there.
Exactly.
And not just for all the Greek moms out there. Every single immigrant mother who came to either North America or to another European country, or let's say South America, it's like to the New World, and didn't know the language, didn't know the culture, and sacrificed herself and the father too. The parents, they sacrificed themselves to give us a better life. Because let's face it, most Greeks who left Greece didn't leave because, you know, they had a job waiting for them at Harvard. You know what I mean? At least not our parents after World War II. You know what I mean? There was different waves of immigration. But our parents didn't leave because they were educated, you know, not to insult their parents. Our parents left because they had a hard time. You know, they were poor. There was the Civil War.
Well, Christo,
you know?
Let me cut you off, Christo. Everything you're saying is what's connected everybody to your book. You're the kind of guy, and I've known you for a long time, when you start something, you finish. And
yes,
I applaud you, because that's the commitment it takes in any type of media, in arts and film and whatever. I know you have that. And you're the kind of guy that won't sleep for 4 days.
right.
I think honoring our mothers, because that's how, when I saw your book, and let me tell you guys, when you see this book, it's a beautiful book. It's a hardcover. The pictures, the way it's laid out, it looks phenomenal. But the thing that struck me the most about it, when I thought about it, and when I see the book, and the fact that you get a rise out of people like that, Christo, that makes them connect and say, we should have done this, then bingo, jackpot, bravo, Sue. That's what, it's the commitment. So a lot of people always, you ever be with friends, we should do this, we should do that, and they never do it. And where I applaud you is that you made the commitment, and the connection. I think when people read it, they feel, when you read this book and there's recipes, whether it's yemista, whether it's moussaka, whether it's kokinisto, whatever the delicious, now I'm getting hungry just saying it. But the truth of the matter is, and my wife's Armenian, and I got a friend of mine who's Jewish, her girlfriend's Jewish, and she was looking at your book, and I think she ordered it online. And she goes, this is such a great book, but I feel there's a bigger connection. I said, yeah, because the author, and I think when you dedicate something to your mother, I think all of us feel the same connection. I did. And I think that's what makes it more endearing, because you can write a book about anything, right? But people always ask the question, what is a connection to something? It's something, as a comedian, if I tell a joke and it's real, you'll connect to it, you'll laugh. As a filmmaker, if you do something. In a cookbook, who doesn't like to eat? And honoring your mother with this, and I think Adi and Forti will agree, all of us can agree, it's like you said, it could be like anybody. And when you said my big fat Greek cookbook, I said bingo, jackpot. And I know it's been very successful. I think at one point you guys ran out of print, right?
Yeah, we run out of print 2 times now. It's going to the 3rd print now, in time for Christmas. Yeah.
Well,
so that's good. Yeah.
Sorry, Angelo. I just want to jump in. Like, I have a big criticism for Angelo. So,
of course you do.
He texted me that we're gonna have this great guest chef who did this awesome cookbook and whatever, and he sent the link. And with the cookbook, the Greek cookbook, and he sent me the link, and I looked at it, and I was like, wow, this is great, this is cool. So I'm like, let me make a little promo. And then I look up your name, and I'm like, yo, this guy has done like a ton of stuff, film, like a screenwriter. Like, I was like, I'm a secret, like my secret passion in life, which I never was able to get into, is film and screenwriting and stuff like that. Like, it's always been a passion, but I never ever like even tried to pursue it because I don't think I have that talent. But it was always like one of those secret passions of mine, and I'm like a complete like a geek with that stuff. And then I read your profile, and I was like, oh my god, like I thought it was awesome that you did the cookbook, and how successful it was is amazing. And then I saw your credentials, and I was like, all right, now I'm a little bit nervous with this guy. This guy's done like,
not at all.
You're kind of like a Renaissance man. Like, you've done a lot of stuff, and it's pretty impressive. And I'd love to hear a little bit about, just a little bit more about your background, how you got into a lot of the stuff you do, and your filmmaking.
I'm gonna say this, Ari, because you said Chris is very talented. Christos, but we're Canadians. We're very humble. We don't have to say it. Like Americans, their egos and their resumes walk in the door before. We're from Canada. We're like, and the work will speak for itself, right? But no, but I told them, Christo. I told Forti and Adi, we're gonna bring in. He's a friend of mine. He's a perfect guest. I had you in mind when we started the show, Connecting Greeks. But the thing was, I wanted to lead in with the cookbook. But I also know you're a filmmaker, you're a producer, you're a writer. There's so many other layers to this onion. But I wanted to lead it in because I'm so captivated by the cookbook. And Christos even done we did stuff for Just for Laughs that Christos directed that I was in.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's how so Angelo's brother and sister used to work with my older brother as well.
That's right.
And then I also worked at Just for Laughs at the big comedy festival here in Montreal for 12 years. And that's how I reconnected with Angelo. I'd see him all the time.
Yeah.
All the events, all the parts. And listen, thank you for the love and kindness, but gentlemen, I'll also have to say a couple things too. And Angelo, you mentioned this like a few minutes ago, that I'm doing it and I'm being proactive about it, but the 4 of us wouldn't be on screen here if we're not being proactive. And I don't know too much about you, Forti and Ari, and I'll get to know you guys a little bit more on this call and a little bit afterwards as well. But Angelo is like the hardest working I think a comedian that I know. I mean, this guy, like, he's everywhere. You know what I mean? For the last 20 years, this guy's not stood still. And he's in TV shows and commercials and in films. And there's not one corner on this planet. I think you haven't played Antarctica. Probably it's the only continent you haven't played on.
That's the only continent I haven't done.
No, I'm not joking. And at one point, hey, listen, they need some comic relief down there because they have like a whole couple of bases there. So I'm not joking. Tasmania, where there is a bunch of Greeks, Tasmania is the launching pad to get to Antarctica, right? So there's no reason why you can't actually be going to Antarctica. That's
Hobart.
Hobart. Exactly. What are you doing?
You've been to our Hobart.
I've been to Hobart. I've done show there.
See,
I've been to Hobart. But thanks for that, Chris. Right now, I'm like a lot of us, because I'm living in California, and unemployed now because of this COVID. So people are calling from all over. They're going, there's fires, there's demonstrations, pandemic, people are rioting. And I go, yeah, that's all happening. Looks at the
Right. Yeah. Well,
What do you mean unemployed? What do you mean unemployed, Angelo? We're paying you 6 figures to be on this show right here.
Now that's funny. That's funny.
You're neglecting that. But you know, Chris, what you just said about Angelo being a hard worker, it goes a little bit deeper. I mentioned this, I think, once before. We worked with Angelo, and you know, we met him. We had fun. He's a great guy, and he's a hardworking guy. But something that really impressed me genuinely about Angelo is that I would go to every single Greek person that I know, and I'm talking around Boston, around like these areas. And every time it's their birthday on Facebook, I would see Angelo Sourligas, happy birthday. I'm like, he must have like some program or some little bot program
it's me.
to tell people happy birthday.
Do it.
And then he's like, no, I wake up, I look at Facebook, I tell people happy birthday. I'm like, who does that? Like, that's like genuine.
You know, it's true. Yeah, he's very generous, dude.
Well, he forgot my birthday. So it's
okay.
Everybody forgets their birthday.
Hey, you didn't give me my birthday. But but I don't wish, if they have a private profile, I don't wish it to them because I'm not going to send them personal messages because they think you're creeping on them. But you know, guys, you know, it's funny because the show's called Connecting Greeks, and the whole objective of this show is to bring different people of like backgrounds, but in different scenarios, right? And you want to make it in a way where everybody can appreciate it. And I'm going to take that back to Christos' cookbook, is that you don't have to be Greek to get these recipes, man. People are, and I think, and what I wanted to ask you, Christos, was, are you finding a lot of non-Greeks are the majority of people buying your book?
Absolutely. I mean, I just had some young lady, Italian girl, who's basically said, "This is going to be my first cookbook. I can't wait. It's going to bring me back to my times and my memories in Greece." I didn't ask too much information, you know, how much time she spent in Greece. I mean, I would dare say, you know, from the people that I know, the majority of the people who have bought the book are not even Greek, you know.
Nice. That's great.
That I know, you know what I mean? Like, that people have come to book signings and, you know, people who, you know, are just reaching out, people that I see on social media or on Amazon. You know, a friend of mine, she was in a TV series that I produced. We interviewed her, and she just reached out to me, Jewish lady, like fine Jewish lady here in Montreal. You probably actually know. It's Josh and Joel Silver, you know, the
of course, yeah, sure.
So Vivian Silver. And she sends me a nice little note saying about this Jewish meal, you know. So it's like, so we're just trading back and forth, right? So the idea of the meals are, I mean, they're just very basic, what I call, like what Angela said earlier, they're like soul food. They're like what we grew up eating up in the mountain villages of Greece, you know what I mean? Because we didn't grow up eating seafood, because if we lived on the coast or on an island, we wouldn't have immigrated, because we'd have either fishing or tourism to keep our parents, you know, from leaving, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we had basic meals, and this is what it is, just back to basics. And I did the research. Very few Greek books, if not no Greek books out there. Even before I actually started making the book, or as I was making the book, I researched online. I went to every single bookstore I can think of, and I never found one Greek book that kind of just represents kind of like this peasant Greek food, this simple, you know, like.
And that's what everybody wants.
Yeah,
that's what they want.
I have one friend of mine actually from high school who I hadn't seen in 30 years. She came to the book signing. She lives in Toronto now. She came to the book signing and she bought like almost like a half a dozen books. And she just texted me recently. She said, "I've cooked every single meal."
Wow.
The 65 meals. She goes, "I've cooked every single meal, and I've made some of the meals several times." And not just her, many other people said, "Listen, my mother's no longer around, and I miss her food, and this is the closest thing that reminds me of my mother's food." She goes, and it's almost like, they'll say this, it's like my mother's food or my yaya's food. Everyone will say that.
Right. Now, Christo, let me ask you, and you've touched on a good point here. I think we can all agree on this. I remember the Italians do this, and especially the Greeks. Every Sunday, kafedaki, every Sunday, my dad would be like, I don't care what you guys do all week, but Sunday we're going to get together, family dinner. I think as life has progressed with the iPhones and internet and stuff, we've sort of disconnected.
Yep.
Have you found that people mention this to you? And I see it myself. I try to do it with my family. My wife's Armenian, so they're kind of the same way. And do you find that the art of slowing down, and that's what I tell people when they go to Greece. If you're in a hurry to go eat, don't go to Greece.
Yeah.
Because the Greeks will look at you like, relax. You know, relax, Malaka. Just take it easy. So do you find now that idea, and now people are reading the cookbooks that take the time to make food. So the way I look at it, if someone takes a lot of time to prepare something, you should take the equal amount of time to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a thing now, and I say it with my daughter. We get in fights all the time here. I say, when we eat, no iPhones, no iPads, no nothing. We're gonna eat. And that's what and now I'm turning it to my dad now.
Bravo.
You know, and I'm like, no telefono, no tipota. And somebody, my daughter had a friend over, and this kid had an iPad. And nowadays, it's a delicate situation. You can't parent other people's kids. When we were kids, we got sfalyadas from everybody. Whoever's mother was closest to you, you got sfalyadas, right? That's how it worked.
Right.
It was a community skotoma, and it was okay.
It takes a village, as they say, to raise
It takes a village, right? Yeah. So now the kid came over, and we were having dinner. And I said, look, at the table, we don't bring devices to the table while we're eating. And this little mixiarico said to me, well, my house we do. I said, well, this isn't your house. And so my wife got me. My wife goes, can you come inside her for a second? She goes, you can't talk like that to other kids. I go, hold on.
Of course
I said, well, you sure you can? I go, I didn't yell at the kid. I said, look, you know what? When we eat, we don't have devices at the table. That's the rules in this house. And the kid was looking at me. And then, okay, I said, look, we're just going to eat for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Then you go back to your devices. He thought about it. He put it down. So then the mother came over, one of these very liberal, opinionated moms. And my wife said, look, by the way, Angelo said we're eating dinner, and he suggested, my wife's more political than me, but I didn't say nothing. And she said, he just suggests not using devices. And I'm thinking I'm going to hear hell from it. And the mother looks at me and says, he actually put it away? I've been trying to do that for a long time. So how sacred is it nowadays? Is it important? And I'm going to ask all of you this question. How important is it for at least one day a week? Christos' mother, all our mothers make these recipes. How important for it is as a social structure and as a family that we at least once a week get everybody together and have a dinner on, let's say, a Sunday?
I think it's very, very important, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Before Christo, you answer, let me put my piece in. What is wrong with these kids where they're talking back to the adult when you're at somebody's house and you're talking back to an adult? Like, I can't get over it. B, Angelo, you did the right thing, because it's not just your opinion. It's medical, it's professional, it's psychological. Like, you shouldn't be attached to these devices as a child. And I think you did the right thing. It's your house, so whatever. Like, it's your house. You can do whatever you want. You didn't do anything wrong. And I just still can't get over these children today. It's like, what? Like, when I was a little kid, somebody said, put your iPad away. I would have thrown it like 50 miles. Like, okay, I'm sorry.
Not now.
Done.
Well,
Done. That's it.
I don't think you'd go to someone else's house. I don't think your parents would allow you to take the iPad with you to go to someone else's house.
Or, whatever the case is, like, it's I can't believe what I hear sometimes. And I commend you. Please.
It's like the equivalent. It's like the equivalent of, like, what, when we were growing up, what would we be playing with, quote unquote? We'd be attached to what? I mean, we'd be attached to a hockey stick. Let's be realistic. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
like I didn't grow up, and I'm not that old, and I'm not that young. I didn't grow up playing video games. Like, I grew up in Park X, you know. Like, I grew up this working class, you know, ethnic neighborhood where it's like you left the house, you never stayed inside, and even if it was like minus 30 Celsius, like we had like snot dripping down our nose, crusted, and it'd be like we couldn't feel our hands and our feet. But the thing is, we never wanted to go inside the house, right? So the equivalent would be what? Yeah, I'd be bringing a hockey stick to dinner. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the idea of, like, listen, I have a huge issue. I don't have kids of my own, but I have an issue with my nieces and nephew. My two oldest nieces, you know, they'd always be playing with the phones. And at dinner at my parents' place, when they'd come over once a week, once every 2 weeks, no way. You know what I mean? There's no way. I would tell them, if my brother or my sister-in-law would say, go, you know what, you're gonna be on your phone, go to the living room. You know what I mean? You're not eating. Go to the living room. And sometimes, you know, my older brother and I'm the youngest, but my other brother also has kids as well. And sometimes, you know, I mean, parenting their kids, and they kind of look at me. I'm like, what? Like, I'm sorry, I'm the uncle. I'm gonna parent them. I'm not gonna, you know, give them hell. I'm not gonna give them shit. I'm not gonna smack them over the side of the head or anything like that. I'm not gonna parent them. You know what I mean? And excuse me, how often do I take the kids out to the movies, take them to the park, take them to go shopping, take them out to the restaurant, take them out to the museum? And while I'm out there with them, I'm not gonna parent them. Like, you give me the responsibility of your own children. And of course, they're gonna teach them what I know. I'm not going to sit there and actually kind of go behind your back and tell them and try to unravel your parenting. No. But the idea is that if you're going to sit here, and my parents have spent days cooking 30 meals.
Yeah.
Hey, man, my parents, just like your parents, my parents, when they'd have us over, and it wouldn't just be like the kids and the grandkids. It'd be like uncles and cousins and friends. Yep. It'll be like, sometimes we'd have 20 people over at the house, right?
So you agree? You agree?
Yeah, it's like 20 people in my house. And my mother, my dad will take 3-4 days cooking, like spanakopita, pasticcio, this, that, 2 different types of salads, 3 different types of potatoes, 4 different types of dips, like on and on and on, right? And some of my friends, you know, like some of the Xeni, the non-Greeks, they'd come inside, they're like, holy crap, like, what is this? For them, it's like a buffet. It's like they're going to an Italian wedding, and it's the midnight table, right? And like, my parents welcomed everybody into the house. Everybody, like any kind of like sexual orientation.
Doesn't matter.
No, everybody. Like, my parents, you know.
So that means Ari can come to dinner.
You know, but no phone at the dinner table. It's not gonna happen.
But Christo, let me say to you, because that's what I'm trying to carry the tradition. I hear what you're saying. That's the tradition I'm trying to carry. Even though I live in Los Angeles, even though I have a smaller family, it doesn't matter. Our door is open. And people come all the time, people coming over. And I'm lucky my wife's really adapted. She's cooked some of your mom's recipes that have been phenomenal. And what I find, a job as a parent is discipline's one thing. I want to pass those traditions on to my kids and all our kids. So one day, maybe when they're older and they have families, they can say, you know, I remember my dad telling me, put the iPhone away, while mom was bringing Yuvarelakia or Yemista or whatever, right? I want that tradition, at least the attempt. Because I think as parents, our parents' biggest fear when they left Greece is that we weren't going to be Greek anymore. That's why they had that insecurity.
Right.
And the one way to bind it together, and I think this is a big success for my Big Fat Greek Cookbook, it's come of age now. We're at the age where we appreciate now what the sacrifice and things that our parents, like most immigrant parents. I'll give you an example. I have a cousin that lives in Toronto and wanted to make a move to Vancouver. And he was hemming and hawing. I'm going, Remalaka, our parents got on a boat 50 years ago, didn't even know where they were going, didn't even know the language, and somehow they made it work. You have credit cards, you have iPhones, you can fly in the same day. What are you scared of? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen. What if the sushi restaurant isn't good in Vancouver? Really, dude? Get in the plane and come back. So I think it's so important. And that's why I think the success of your book, Chris, you put your heart into it. You honored your mother. You're discussing how your family unit is. We all connect because we all experience the same thing. And I think that's what people want. You know, when people say they want self-help books, or they want books to make you feel better, or they want books, how do I connect with my family? I'll tell you how. Cook some good Greek food, invite them over on a Sunday, and tell everybody to put their fucking iPhones away. That's how you connect.
Well, you know, what you're saying is very, very important, because there's, to hold on to that elinismo, as we said, like the immigrant parents came and they want you to hold those traditions. Listen, I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but like, we're like 2 or 3 generations away of having no Greekness whatsoever, because
True.
Our kids, most people now and our kids are most likely not going to marry another Greek. So then their kids are going to be half Greek. Then they're probably not going to marry Greek. And then after that, it's really just tradition, trying to hold on to something. And your cookbook, Christo, shows like we're doing, Angelo, your comedy in a lot of ways, those are the things we need. So even if you're not Greek fully, or even if you just have like 3 generations back, like, make Greek cool. Make Greek something to hold on to. Make those traditions something that people want to grab, because to be like 100% Greek is going to be a rough ride for the next few generations, because it's probably not going to be that commonplace. So I love when I hear about somebody doing like a Greek cookbook, or somebody doing Greek humor. I'll watch a movie, and when the credits roll, if I see a Greek name, I'm like, look, a Greek is part of that. A Greek is part of that. I do this every movie I watch.
Everybody does.
Right? So, like, we need to hold on to that. And people like you, Christo, and people like you, Angelo, who kind of propel our culture, is a very needed thing, I think, right now.
Yeah, there's a very good point that you bring up. The thing is, I have hope, and at the same time, I don't. I mean, but that's just because I'm being realistic. But I'll give you some of the hopeful ones. I have a friend of mine. She's a well-known journalist, Anna Asimakopoulos. You know Anna Asimakopoulos?
Yeah, she's big time.
Yeah, and Anna doesn't speak Greek, or barely speaks Greek. Yeah, because she's like, 3 or 4 generation. Her grandfather, great-grandfather, was Papa, Papa Salami?
Salami. He baptized me, by the way.
Yeah. And he was in Papa Salami. Yeah, he was like 105 when he passed away. They did a documentary about him, like a nationwide documentary. Like, he was a huge figure in the Greek community. And so Anna, was 3, 4 generation. And she married an African Canadian gentleman. They have 2 kids. And their kids are more Greek than she is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she got a daughter and a son, amazing kids. They go to Greece every summer. And her kids speak Greek. Her kids went to Greek schools, right? So like, when you see something like that, you're like, wow. So it's like, it's generations old. But then, and she didn't marry someone Greek, and on top of that, she married someone who is, visible minority, right? So her kids are visible minority, but like, they speak better Greek than I do. They dance better Greek than I do. You know what I mean? So there is hope, and it's beautiful. So that's one example, and you see that everywhere, right? I'll give you one other example. A friend of mine, another journalist here, and he's 1/4 Greek, or maybe even less. Just his last name is Greek, okay? But again, like 3, 4 generations, who knows? He's like part French Canadian, part Jewish, part Irish. He connects with his Greek side. He went to live in Greece for a year. He feels more Greek than he feels with the other nationalities, right?
Well, I have to say that I believe that the Greek culture is like when you talk about dominant genes and like submissive genes,
Yeah.
I believe the Greek culture is a dominant culture. Like we have a powerful, historical, very strong culture. And I was actually going to ask you, Angelo, a lot of times when is a Greek and a non-Greek, the child usually takes on more of the mother's side. I was going to ask you, do you feel like the Greek is the dominant force or the Armenian is the dominant force in your house?
No, well, here's the deal. The Armenians are as close to the Greeks as you're going to get culturally.
That's true.
They really are. And I say it in my act sometimes where I go, if you marry a Greek, male or female, chances are, if you're not that religious or culturally diverse, the Greek side's going to win, because Greeks will colonize the world, whether it's about history, whether it's about democracy, whether it's about the Olympics, whether it's about the food, it's about everything. And you ever see, we're so proud to a point, but they can back it up. So I always say to people, I'll be at a show and I'll say, there's a guy who's just regular American guy, white American guy, and he's got a hot Greek girlfriend. And I said to him, I think this was like in Denver or Chicago. And I said, so you guys, we're engaged? I said, yeah. Are you getting ready? Does it matter to you where you're getting married? Because we haven't discussed it yet. Well, I can end the discussion. I said, you're getting married in the Greek church, and your kids are going to be baptized Greek, and you're going to be eating fasolada on Friday nights. And the whole audience was laughing because they know. And he goes, well, you know, it doesn't really make a difference to me. And even Christo made a good point. Even the Greeks that aren't that Greek, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, guys, guess what? Now, with me, it was different. My wife's Armenian Orthodox. So when we went to get married, we went to the Armenian church first. And they have a beautiful Armenian church in Glendale. And then after, we went to St. Sophia Cathedral here in downtown LA, the Hollywood church, which is massive. And we walked in, and my wife looked at it, not even 30 seconds. She goes, oh, we're getting married here. And I think my Bethara, my mother-in-law, at first had a problem with it. And my wife said to her, I'm marrying a Greek man in a Greek church. Get over yourself. And so in a way, I think if I did get married in an Armenian church, it would have been okay. Doesn't compromise what my belief would be. I love this woman. I want to have a family with her. But I also see now my wife tends to be more Greek than I am. So now they're driving me nuts. So I want to go to Greece. She cooks Greek food. She buys Greek products. She's very proud Armenian, of course. They do a lot of that stuff too. But I can see sometimes when you attach to it, because my daughter is half and half, right? So men's mama is grandma in Armenian, and yaya is Greek. So when men's mama in LA says to my daughter, Olivia, are you Greek or Armenian? And she goes, men's mama, I'm Greek like my daddy. She cries. Then we go to Montreal, and we see yaya. And my mother goes, Olivia, are you Greek or Armenian? And she goes, yeah, I'm Armenian like my mother. And she starts crying. And I go, she's playing both of you.
She's playing both sides.
This kid's going to be she's going to be the best con artist in the world because she's got Greek and Armenian in her.
Well, you know, I just saw a report that said the most culturally narcissistic people on the planet are Greeks. They literally are the most proud.
Cut off. Are you okay there, Ari? We got you?
Can you hear me? Did you lose me?
No,
you say that again, Ari? We had a brain fart.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
I read a report where Greeks are the most culturally narcissistic people. They are the most proud of their culture of anybody on the planet. And this was like Time or Newsweek, like a major publication.
And I add to that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, didn't we do narcissism?
Yeah.
That too.
I tell you two things about that. Anyone who might have some Greek roots and kind of doesn't speak Greek or doesn't really, the moment they go to Greece, they visit Greece, they're automatically more Greek than ever before. I have friends who are not Greek, and every year I go to Greece. I go to Greece every summer. I have a couple of friends that come and visit who are non-Greek, and they're like, that's it. I'm never going to go anywhere else on vacation in the summertime ever again, right? Which leads me to this other thing, and this is probably the most like narcissistic Greek pride thing I'm going to say probably in this whole 2-hour conversation here, is that you've heard the saying before, right? It's two kinds of people on this planet: Greeks and everyone who wants to be Greek. And it's fucking true, dude. And it's fucking, I thought that was the silliest thing. And the thing is, just like maybe you guys as well, I went through my ins and outs with the Greek community, and the culture is like, fuck that. It's so Greek, so stupid. Like, for various reasons, right? At some points, I was even hiding my Greekness. I was calling myself Chris. I didn't want to call myself Christos, right? And especially when you're in this corporate world sometimes, or, I went to school in Toronto, and I actually, if you can believe it, coming from a place where, we have two cultural divides, French and the English, the French being predominant and more dominant, and the English are considered second-class citizens. The immigrants are considered third-class citizens, and the poor indigenous people are considered fourth-class citizens. So you're coming from a place like this where there's, quote-unquote, a lot of linguistic and cultural issues. And I went to Toronto for 4 years, and I had more racist comments towards me in Toronto than I ever had before in Montreal. Because in Toronto, most people just speak one language if you're white,
Right.
No one's going to speak. If you're ethnic, sure, you speak a couple of languages. Here, every white person speaks at least 2, 3, maybe 4 languages, right? Because they have to learn French. They have to learn English. They might learn Spanish if you're French because it's easy to pick up. A lot of the French Canadians love going down to Mexico and South America and all that kind of stuff. And they're a little more curious. They're a little more curious. So they'll but you go to like Toronto where it's like, and don't get me wrong, I love Toronto for the pluses and minuses just as much as I love Montreal for the pluses and minuses as well, just like anywhere else, anywhere you live, right? But I got more racist remarks in Toronto, of all places, than I did in Montreal. But like I said, like I had my, my times with being Greek and not Greek, but I've come to realize the older I'm getting, I was like, yeah, man, when I have friends who come and visit Greece and they say, you know what, I've never eaten more fresher food in my life. I've even had Italian friends who tell me, yeah, you know what? Italians, we like to believe we know the tomato, but you guys really no, because they'll come and they'll go, you guys put fucking tomato on everything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, and I meet Italians there and they're eating and they're like, what are you eating? I'll go, a cocora, whatever, or cookinista. And they're like, oh, what's that? I go, you want to try some? I'm like, oh yeah, we'll order 4 of these, please. You know what I mean? And yeah, so yeah, there is something to be said about going to Greece, the blue skies, because you get like 300 days of sun per year. There's anywhere you drive within, like, let's be realistic, all you have to drive is 1 hour if you're anywhere in the middle of the country and you're down at the coast. So there's beaches everywhere. If you don't like one beach, all you have to do is walk 5 kilometers or drive 5 minutes or not even go to the next beach, right? It's got the 14th longest coastline in the world. Not many people know that.
Yeah.
Because it's not straight. It's like this, and there's all these islands. 14th longest coastline in the entire world. You're going to eat well for very little money. You're going to see some culture. You can go to the ruins. You can see the history, like you can feel the history, all that. And people are changed, non-Greeks and Greeks who go there. They're changed when they go. They really come back a different person. I notice that. I feel it all the time.
Well, it's funny you say that, Christo, because I was supposed to go to Greece last month to do a show with Pavlo. It didn't happen, the COVID situation. And now my wife and daughter, are we going to Greece? When are we going to Greece? And and Christo said it. And when we talk to people, we know facts. Like Christo just said, 14th largest coastline in the world. Huh? How about that? And it's a colonization. And you know what? People always ask me, how do you know a restaurant's Greek? You could go to any restaurant, right? Italian, Chinese, or contemporary, and you'll always see like a chicken souvlaki on the menu. I go, they're Greeks
or something.
And I've had people awkwardly come up to me and say, oh, you're Greek, huh? Yeah, we love feta.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck does that mean?
I used to get tzatziki.
I
love
tzatziki.
tzatziki.
I love
Greek,
tzatziki.
I love tzatziki, right?
My friend of mine, Joe Coy, does a joke. He's Filipino. He goes, people go up to him going, oh, you're Asian? We love orange chicken.
Yeah.
People are so dumb. But you see, again, when you talk about, and this is the identity, I think the most popular food found in the world is Italian as an ethnic group, because everywhere I've gone. But I will say this, when you bring up Greek food to people, their eyes light up. Oh, we like that. Even in LA, which has some good places now, especially like Boston, East Coast. You got Boston, Montreal, New York, Chicago, Detroit, Toronto. Excellent old school Greek. And the West Coast here, there's one place I love going to. I'll give it a plug, the Great Greek, which is on Ventura. Love them. It's as close as to what we're used to in the East Coast. But you can see when people hear Greek food, like here in LA, we have Tony's Taverna in Malibu, Avra and Beverly Hills now, Luca, Great Greek, Le Petit Greek, PR, GR Pita, all this stuff. There's a lot of places. It's a good connecting point. But I find now, Christos, as I get older now too, somebody says to me, and I've traveled the whole world, and I used to be a travel agent. And this is what I tell people. Everybody should go to Greece once in their life. That's what I tell people. I don't tell them it's the best. I say, you should go to Greece once in your life. And they just look at me going, really? I go, really? You can go other places, but everybody on the planet should go to Greece once in their life. And I think us Greeks, and especially the ones in the diaspora, children of the immigrants, we're the best salespeople for Greece. Because I got people calling me going, hey man, I'm thinking of going to Greece. Where should I go? I go, it doesn't matter where you go. You're going to have a good time. Like Christos said, you don't like this beach? Go 5 kilometers, you get another beach. Do you find yourselves doing that? Do you do that?
No, I'm going to take it to the next level, and I'm going to say, please, let's start talking to doctors, and they prescribe at least one trip to Greece. Yeah. Like, it'll fix your sanity. It'll fix your gut health with the fresh food and the good eating. It'll fix your stress because you'll relax.
And blood.
One trip to Greece by a doctor.
Yeah.
Prescribe it.
I mean, think of it this way. How many stories have you heard where people have been given 3 months to live because they have cancer? Greeks, right? And they go, fuck it. I don't want to die in Montreal. I want to go die in my village. They go there and they live 4 more years. You know what I mean?
There's a famous story. Fati, you know?
Yeah, in Ikaria, the guy from Ikaria, the island where people forget to die. It was a New York Times article about 10 years ago. And the story is, Fati, sorry, you want to tell the story?
Oh, no, go ahead. No, please.
So the story was, there was this older man from somewhere in the U.S. I think his last name was Moraitis. And the doctor told him, listen, you'll have 6 months to live. He's got cancer. He goes, okay, well, no problem, doctor. Thank you. I'm going to go back to my island, which is a blue zone, Ikaria, which is one of 5 blue zones in the entire world. Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, placing amount of people over the age of 100 anywhere in the world. And so he goes, no problem, doctor, thanks. I'm going to go to Ikaria. I'll just die there. The guy winds up living decades, okay? And this whole article talks about, the research, why people live so long lives in Ikaria, and on and on and on. It's like a 10-page article. And at the end of the article, the journalist asks Mr. Moraitis, he goes, Mr. Moraitis, what did your doctor think that you've lived another 32 years? He goes, I don't know. He's dead.
One thing, Christo, that I remember they emphasized in that article about his longevity after or during cancer or after cancer was the fact that he reconnected with a lot of his childhood friends. Yeah. And that interaction with his childhood friends had some kind of a significant impact on his mental state and his physical being.
Yeah, because the people in Ikaria do everything in moderation. They'll drink in moderation. They'll smoke in moderation. They'll always have red wine. they eat like goat meat. They'll eat a little bit of chicken, not too much fish, because most of the people, the Icarian diet, people think it's fish based, and it's not. All the people in Icaria lived up in the mountains, right? If you've only come down to the coast in the last, few decades because of tourism and fishery, whatever, but they ate a little bit of goat, a little bit of chicken, but everything else, it's potatoes and vegetables. And they drink coffee, they drink red wine, they'll smoke a couple cigarettes, they'll say sex, not too much, not too little. They work out in the sense that they walk everywhere.
And they had no watches, no clocks,
They have no watches.
right?
Family is very important. Multiple generations live under one roof. I mean, most Greece, let's be realistic. A lot of people say, why didn't too many people die because of the epidemic in Greece? I said, because there's probably not too many old age homes in Greece. Let's be realistic. That's why people didn't die there. Because you'll have like 3 generations under one roof. And if they're not under one roof, they're half a block away, right?
Well, let me ask you, did this guy Moriarty's, did he go back to Icaria with his wife or without his wife? Because that would make a big difference.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a good question. If he actually, it's a very good question.
Because right now,
you're gonna get a lot of comments on that one next week. You're gonna get a lot of comments on that one next week.
I'll tell you a quick story. I'm drinking red wine right now because I've been down in DC with my wife and her mother for the last 4 months, and we just came up to Cape Cod. We have a summer house in Cape Cod. So my wife, my mother-in-law, and my 2 older sisters are there. And I spent 3 days listening to every criticism that has ever been made in the world about me and how I live and how I talk and how I act and how I raise my son and every single thing you could possibly imagine. I've heard the last 4 days with a Greek wife, a Greek mother-in-law, and 2 older Greek sisters. So
that's crazy.
Red wine.
But let me ask you guys, you brought up Icaria, which is, you're right, remember 60 Minutes and a thing about the longest living centurions in the world. And after the New York Times article, did you notice the explosion in North America market, especially of Greek yogurt?
Yeah.
And
food in general.
People, and they always talk, Christo, they talk about the organic diet. Well, what people don't realize, people in Icaria, they don't know any other diet but the organic diet. The oregano, the tomatoes. I remember my dad's from Sparti outside in the village. My yaya would make yummy stuff, stuffed peppers, tomatoes and stuff, eggplants. And they would take it to the furno, to the stone oven in the village. When that stuff came out, that was the best tasting yummy stuff I ever had in my life, because I realized everything was picked locally, everything was made locally in a stone it was a stone oven, and it was unbelievable. But people say to me, what's the Mediterranean organic diet? I go, that's how Greeks in general eat. Because you're right, they smoke and drink more than anybody in Europe, and their life expectancy is longer. It's the second longest in the world.
They have a few things. They also eat later, which isn't good technically, but it doesn't hit them hard because I think it's the problem.
Well, this is the reason why his wife and his mother-in-law and his 2 sisters are always complaining about him.
Yeah, exactly.
Poor Adi.
You froze again. You froze again. The last 30 seconds, we didn't hear a thing.
Oh, man, I got no luck. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, what did you say the last 30 seconds?
I think it's your wife muting you.
Yeah, I think she hacked my computer.
Who's Caroline, by the way? Because I see Caroline iPhone on the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
I guess Caroline's listeting on.
You should probably remove that person.
They're all in there, and they're texting me right now. They're mad.
That's good.
But I was going to say, it's the organic. It's the very, it's much less processed food. In America, in Canada, I'm assuming, the processed food, man, we can't get away from it, and that's so not good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got to tell you one thing. I got to add that. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead, Ari.
No. I just want to say the processed food, they eat later in Greece. They smoke, they drink, but they're healthier. They're thinner, and I feel because it's like a more organic, a more non-processed diet than we have here.
My father comes from a village that's only 8 people left in this village. There's about 17 houses, okay? My father's village is high up in the mountains in Arcadia. about a half hour from the coast. There's 4 roads that lead into the village. They only put asphalt in the roads only a few years ago. And imagine, like, all the population is left. Now they put asphalt, right? It was a dirt road going in, 4 dirt roads going in. Not the safest roads in the world, right? Every year I bring my friends there and I say to them, listen, I'll take you to islands. I'll take you to the mainland. I'll take you to the Acropolis, I'll do all that. But you also have to come a couple of days to the village. And every time I go, I increase the population by 10%. Like, I show up, I bring 2 people, I increase it by 300%. You know what I mean? Like, and they see my aunts and uncles and I go, listen, just don't be afraid. They're not going to eat you alive, but just, you know, they're going to look different. They don't speak English. They might have a lot of teeth missing. And I love my aunts and my uncles, right? They might sound very rough, but they actually love you. Like, they might, you know what I mean? And I go, you'll never eat more fresher tomatoes in your life. You'll never eat more better cheese, because they still make their own cheese there. You'll never eat, you know, drink simple table wine, olive oil. And the best of all, when you get eggs from these chickens that are hatched just a half hour before, and they're like orange, they're not yellow like they are here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll never want to eat another egg again. And they're like, yeah, whatever. I've brought friends there. Okay, we're going to just stay 1 day. I've had friends who've begged to stay for a week, 10 days. I've actually had one girlfriend who we're supposed to stay there for a day. We wound up staying 10 days, you know, because she didn't want to leave. Yeah. And I'll give you this one last thing about this village. So all the bread ovens are also a lot of the ovens. Like, every house has an oven, right? Okay, and you make the bread in there. You cook all the food in there as well, right? And some of my friends, some of my non-Greek friends would say, why does the food taste so good? Like, I have an oven in my backyard, and like, why does it taste so good? I go, come. And I open up the oven, I go, look in the back. They're like, wow, what is it? He goes, do you see that? He goes, yeah. So it's all terracotta. One of my uncle's oven. So it's all terracotta, all like brick and terracotta. And he goes, okay, so what's so special about that? I go, my uncle quarried it from a village over, which is like by foot, maybe 5 kilometers, okay? Not only is this an old village, it's an ancient village that was actually, that fell into the valley after an earthquake a couple thousand years ago, okay? And they can't excavate it because it's just too deep, and it's going to cost, you have to rip up the whole mountain. But there has been archaeologists there who've dug up and got pots, you know, ceramic pots and all this stuff. So my uncle went and got the keramivia from these old houses from this ancient village and used that.
Unbelievable.
So like, you're eating food, and I tell my friends, you're eating food from the houses that are maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years old. You know what I mean? Wow. And that's what you're eating. You're eating also probably dead people, but you're eating the history of this pottery left over from this excavation, these terracotta roof tiles from these old ancient houses.
Wow.
Wow.
And
amazing stuff. I have actually a couple of questions if I could ask from our audience. Do you mind if you answer a couple of questions? One of them is honoring your mother the main reason for the cookbook?
The only reason. The idea was, my mom, like, literally, when the doctors had told my sister and I, your mom has, 12 to 18 months to live, maybe even 6. And the first thing I said when I drove my mom home, I go, what's for dinner? Like, that's what, right away. It's like, like, what are we going to have for dinner tonight, right? And, at the same time, we're also thinking like, okay, funeral plans, right? And right away I go, no, if this is not going to happen. And I know, my poor mom wound up beating all odds, and she wound up living almost 4 years. She passed away just 2 months ago. And she had a massive stroke that took her life, unfortunately. Otherwise, she'd still be with us. and the stroke just kind of came out of nowhere, really. Like we didn't expect it, you know. And like in hindsight, now we see some signs. We said, okay, maybe we could have prevented it, or at least maybe. But like we had no idea. My sister and I were just.
You saw the same thing happened to my father in 1987, like the massive stroke. Like you think back and you're like, we should have seen it, but it's like it's not.
Like she wasn't feeling so good those few days. We took her in for a blood transfusion, and she was feeling a little bit better a few days afterwards. But we don't know. It was just like. Anyway, long story short, the only reason why I did it is to honor my mom. Because of all the sacrifices. I know, like I said earlier, I realized when I made this book, it was like the voice of my mother and the generations of other mothers, not just from the Greek diaspora, but from all over, every single immigrant mother who has sacrificed herself in the country they came from and the new countries that they came to give a better life for their own children. My mother sacrificed herself into the last days. She wound up surviving 12 days after that stroke. She looked out for us even until her last 12 days, if you can believe it. She was looking out for us. She was looking out for us until her last moments, her last minutes.
Well, that's a great reason to do the cookbook. I mean, honoring your mother is a great reason.
The only reason. The idea was I wanted my mom's recipes for all eternity. Like already, if not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have tried my mother's recipes. And the idea is that this cookbook is going to last all of us. It's going to be around for hundreds of years, dude.
It will.
And,
Very true.
500 years from now, someone's going to pick up this book and they're going to say, oh my God, look at these old Greek recipes that no one makes anymore. You know what I mean?
Hey, look, now that you mentioned it on Connecting Greeks, let's go 1,000 years into the future.
Yeah, 1,000. No, let's be realistic. Because the thing is, 1,000 years ago, the Greek food was slightly different. If you look, like right now, if you can believe it, what's become very popular right now is Byzantine food. People are actually creating these old recipes of what they ate like 1,500 years ago.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So another question is, can you list a couple of places where they can get the cookbook? And I'll also list it in the credits of the video, podcast, everything we're doing.
So listen, I mean, depending on where you're living around the world, your best bet is Amazon and every other online retailer. Like you get a Barnes & Noble in the US, in Canada, Indigo Chapters, in French Canada, Renault Brave. You can believe it, Angelo, the French stores are actually, French bookstores are actually selling, the biggest French bookstore chain in Canada is selling an English cookbook.
That is awesome.
I want to stress
to sold out several times on it.
I want to stress to everybody to buy it from any of the local places that they can, as much as possible.
Absolutely. So locally, there's going to be some places in Montreal and Toronto, and they keep selling out. I've had it in restaurants and bakeries and pastry shops, and Maison Hellenica in Laval carries it. I'm going to do a book signing in the beginning of October in Chambly in Laval, in Montreal, where the Greek community is.
You got to come to Boston. You got to come to DC.
Hey,
you got to go to LA.
Set it up. Set up book signing.
We're doing this.
That's for sure. 100%. And again, Christo, it's been a wonderful having you on our show today. Very informative. I'm listening to you guys. I've enjoyed it so much. Learned a lot from Christo about his family and about the cookbook. I'm just telling everybody listening out there, if you really want Greek cooking, Mediterranean soul cooking, definitely get this book. Buy it as a gift. Buy it for your household. Make your family happy, just the way Christo's mother made her family happy, and carry it on. So I just want to say again, so Christo, we got all the platforms again. We're really happy that you came on the show with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again. It was a real honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. It was a really good show today. I really enjoyed it.
My honor, dude. And, thanks again for writing the foreword to the book. So not only you get my mom's recipes, you also get a nice foreword from Angelo as well. So
they got me, and a lot of people, and I get messages from people going, "Wow, that was."
It's a beautiful foreword too. Yeah, and
I
he
said,
wrote it. You were on a cruise ship, I think, when you wrote it last.
that's
year.
right. That's
And
right.
he wrote it within like a half an hour. I'm like I asked him, and he goes, "Okay, no problem. Send it off in a half an hour." I'm like, "Wow."
Angela's a professional. Just tell him, let's do this. And Angela's like, bing, bang, boom. We're done. We're good.
That was
Let's
great.
go.
Well, I was when Christos asked me to do it, I was honored, and I thought, well, if I'm going to write this because about his mother, I'm going to think of my mom in the same sense, right? And that's why it resonated in a forward. I felt writing a forward for he showed me a lot of the transcripts from it. It looked fantastic, and I said, this is something. It's from the heart, you know. And I know from Christos, it's from his heart. That's what makes it so special. So. Again, people listening, all our fans listening, My Big Fat Greek Cookbook, get it. You will not be disappointed. It's an awesome book. It looks great. And you're going to get some fantastic recipes.
I'll show them
for
the book.
sure.
Just a second. I'll show
Yeah,
them.
show us the book. Show us the book.
So while he's getting the book, I just want to say my wife and my sister sent a chat. So my wife said, "You're not taking a vacation from us. We're taking a vacation from you, Ari." And my sister said, "You didn't have to say older sister, just say sister." Sorry, Chris. I just had to talk about the Greek women in my life.
Here's the book.
Show us the book.
Here's the book. Here's the book.
There it is.
Wow.
And
That's beautiful.
Every single there's a recipe. Every single recipe, there's a photo of which I took.
It's great.
Oh, that looks wonderful.
Yeah.
What a great looking book, huh? And different
I'm
categories.
a web and design guy, and I'm telling you right now, that is a beautiful book.
Yeah, and then I'll show you some photos of my mama.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, let's see your mom. Let's see your mom.
And here's the forward from Angelo.
There you go.
I recognize that writing from Angelo for sure.
And then, there we go. And I'll show you there's some photos of my mama. Here's my mom when she was young in Greece, in her garden.
Okay.
This is my mom and my brother John at St. George's Cathedral in Montreal. That's me in my during my baptism. I was baptized very, very old. Yeah.
Wait, which one are you?
The little kid in white, man.
Oh, look at
nice.
you.
I was like 6 years old when I got baptized. There's my mom, Taftotita.
Nice.
And then some photos here. Here's on the porch in Park X. Look at this old bell-bottom pants, man.
Look at this
Yeah,
guy.
I love
My
it.
brother George. And my mother is knitting. You know? She's knitting.
Classic.
And this is my mom with her uncle because her father died when she was a kid. So her uncle was kind of like her dad. This is
Nice.
in Montreal as well. So, yeah.
Nice. That's
There you go.
awesome.
Thanks
There it
again,
is.
guys.
Thanks again, Christos.
And that's my favorite recipe, uvetsi.
That's
I love it. Who doesn't? That's delicious.
And especially now as things are getting a little cooler, weather-wise here in North America, like I'll be eating that like once a week.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks again, Chris.
Thanks you guys.
Christos. Thanks for coming on the show.
I want to come back. I want to come back.
We're gonna have you back for sure. We'll talk about
Yeah,
some more
Christos,
stuff.
I want you to come back. I want to talk more about all the stuff that you've been involved in. Like I said, I'm a closet geek about film, about a lot of things. I'd love to talk to you.
Sure, absolutely.
I want to
We
thank.
can talk about that next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always, I want to thank you, Angelo, for being here. I want to thank Foti for being here. Christos, thank you so much for coming on. I want to thank all the listeners, all the watchers. We're gonna have the video. We're gonna have the podcast. This is the live stream. Thanks everybody for being part of it. Thank you, and we will see you soon. Christos, be well.
Yeah, you too, guys. All the best.
Bye, Christos.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Foti. Bye, Ari.
Angelo.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Angelo.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye, guys.